So which is the best compact hot estate car? Is it the Mk7.5 Golf R Estate, or could it be the Seat Leon Cupra? Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today, the 1st of December, marks the start of meteorological winter, a time of year when people traditionally start thinking about buying a 4x4 to see them through the worst of the winter weather. That's exactly what I did a year ago. I bought a Mk7.5 Golf R Estate, which I ran alongside my GTI TCR. I could have put winter tyres on the TCR and it would have been great, but living rurally, having a four-wheel drive and winter tyres could be the difference between getting home and not getting home. Now, when I owned that car, a friend of mine turned up in a brand new Seat Leon Cupra Estate, and I couldn't help thinking that I'd bought the wrong car. They were pretty much the same price as well, but the Seat looked so much more interesting. Well, I've got that car back today to find out once and for all which is the best hot compact estate car, the Golf R Estate or the Seat Leon Cupra. So let's get started by seeing how they compare on paper. Now, before we get started, I just want to say that this lovely Seat Leon Cupra Estate is for sale at volkswizard.co.uk. I'll put a link in the description of the video if you want to find out more. That's the end of any adverts. Now, I haven't been able to get a Mk7.5 Golf R today for a proper twin test, but I only got rid of mine a few months ago and lived with it for quite a few months, so the memories are still pretty vivid. So let's start off then by talking about the price. This is the Leon Cupra 300 Lux Estate. The Lux bit's really important because for £1,600 over the base Cupra, you get a nice selection of extras that do make all the difference. Just before it got the chop in 2020, it cost £35,385. That compares with the Golf R Estate at the time, which cost £37,000, so £1,600 cheaper. They both got 2-litre 4-cylinder EA888 petrol turbo engines. They both produce 300 metric horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. They both got 7-speed DSG twin clutch automatic gearboxes, and they both got Haldex four-wheel drive systems. The performance figures reflect the hardware similarity, so they both do 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. They both top out at 155 miles an hour, and they both emit about 161 grams per kilometre of CO2. MPG is pretty similar too, in the low 30s, and they do weigh similar but not the same. So the Cupra is a little bit lighter at 1,557 kilograms. The Golf is a bit heavier at 1,590, so 23 kilograms heavier. Boot size is a little bit smaller in the Cupra because it's swoopier. It's 587 litres with the seats up versus 605 in the Golf. With the seats down, there's even more of a difference. Cupra is 1,470 litres. Golf is nearly 10% more at 1,620. Size-wise, they're very, very similar. The Cupra is a little bit shorter, but a little bit wider. We're talking like 2 centimetres difference. Its wheelbase is just over a centimetre more than the Golf, which is interesting considering they're both based on the same MQB platforms, and the turning circle is a nice and tight 10 metres. Right, you've seen how they compare on paper. Let's have a walk around the Seat Leon Cupra, have a look at the outside of it and the inside of it before we go for a drive. Okay, first thing to point out is that this is still a Seat Leon Cupra, not a Cupra Leon. It was only with the new model that arrived in 2020 that the Fast Leon became part of the Cupra brand and no longer a Seat. We've got bits of copper which are associated with that rebranding, but they're only on the front and rear Seat badges on the wheel centres and on the steering wheel, which is a lot less than some of the other Cupra branded cars. This car is a Lux, as I mentioned earlier, which gets you a selection of extras I'll show you now. We've got adaptive cruise control, which is via that radar there, just like on Golf 7, not 7.5 where it was behind the badge. We've got the lovely bucket seats, which were an option on other Cupras. We've got keyless entry and go. You can see by the start button there, you can see that stalk there is an adaptive cruise one with distance on it. You also get the safety pack, which gives you rear seat belt warning, and it also gives you tiredness recognition. Not sure what that is. This car is in magnetic grey, which I think is probably the best colour for the car. I think greys suit sporty estate cars to perfection, but obviously that's subjective. Now, over the Golf R Estate, you get 19s as standard, and then machine cuts with 235 35 19 tyres, so basically the same tyres as you get on the Pretoria option, which was about £1,000 on the Golf R. Importantly, you get dynamic chassis control as standard as well, which is about an £800 option. That's always been standard on the Cupra, I'm sure you can see under there. So yeah, it's a fair bit better specs than the Golf R, but are there any downsides? Well, let's have a closer look at it. Now, side on, there isn't an awful lot happening with Leons, even sporty ones. There's nothing on the sills, no mouldings, no badges, nothing. Being a Cupra, we've got the black grille, we've got the nostrils there, which are a really nice touch. We've got LED headlights, which have been a Leon Mark III thing since it was launched. We've got black mirror casings in this very stylish design. But yeah, it's quite subtle, really. There's not an awful lot of adornment. At the back, we've got black badges and got that inlay here, which on lighter cars is more obvious. We've got the two oval exhausts. Now, when they're dirty, which they probably won't get dirty very often on this car because it's an OPF car, when they're black on the earlier cars, they're not really that noticeable, not like the four pipes on a Golf R Estate. So I'd say debadge this and you'd have a very stealthy 300 horsepower estate car. Oh, we've got black roof rails as well, which are very, very smart, and obviously no silver work around the windows. Let's have a look inside. Now, material quality on the Leon is a step down from the Golf. On this car, we have the complication of it being dressed up quite nicely. So we've got this carbon fibre fabric here and Alcantara here, which looks really, really expensive. But then we've got the cheap plastics down here. Same with the interior. So the seats have got this carbon fibre, which hopefully is more durable than the white fabric that was on the earlier bucket seats. Alcantara in the centre there, probably fake leather, I'd imagine there. Cupra branding there. Floor mats, well, we've got a contrast edge and contrast stitching as well, and this Cupra logo, which is a really nice touch. Stainless pedals, illuminated sill covers, which you never get on the Golf. You don't get any covers on Golf 7.5. Let's get inside. Being a facelift car, we have the digital instrument cluster with its Lamborghini style typeface, which is really, really cool, and it can do full screen nav when it wants to. Cupra logo on the dash there. We've got Apple CarPlay. We've got like a blacked out version, I think, of the Golf 7.5 climate control pack. Nothing really special about the gear knob, I guess. So 7-speed DSG pedals there, again plastic, but they're okay. Flat bottom wheel and contrast stitching on there. So yeah, let's have a look at the screen then. So we can go full screen like that, or like that, or it's probably the best one with speed in the middle, rev counter around there. And so yeah, pretty versatile. Apple CarPlay on there and navigation on there. It all works really well. This is the older infotainment system on this car, so it's not like the new Leon where you don't have any buttons, and I like it. I like this one probably best out of all of them, because including Golf 7.5, because the screen is higher. It's exactly where it is in the Golf 8, and I think that's the perfect position for a screen. We've got heated seats, a standard, which you really need today because it is hovering around freezing, 1.5 degrees. We've obviously got driving modes, which do mean something on this car because we've got dynamic chassis control. So yeah, DCC. So yeah, we'll find out how good that is when we go for a drive. We haven't got a lined glove box, just like on Golf 8. But overall, I don't feel shortchanged in this car compared to my old Golf. I mean, these seats are lovely, aren't they? They really are nice, and I think it's just a more special place to be than the cabin of a 7.5 Golf R, unless you maybe spec the £2,000 carbon leather. Okay, let's have a look in the back then and see how much headroom and legroom rear passengers get. This will be particularly interesting because the new Leon that came out just after this one was built has got a longer wheelbase, which does give you more rear legroom. So that's what it looks like. and it's quite a welcoming place. Just that seat already looks quite far back. And there we go. I've been in worse. I mean, considering the size of the car, it's not particularly spacious, but I'm not hitting the seat back, and I've got loads and loads of headroom. But yeah, if you're carrying adults or bigger children, probably might be worth going for the new Leon just to have the extra length. But this is probably exactly the same as the Golf. Anyway, that's not a particularly massive car for rear passengers. Right, let's have a look in the boot, see how easy it is to get out. So I haven't really got big feet, and I can just about get them out without kicking the plastics. Okay, so Cupra badge opens the tailgate. No power opening on this car. It's a very usable space, but down here, would you use it? There's no carpet, unlike the Golf, so you'd probably feel a bit nervous about putting things down there because they'd scratch what little paint there is on there. We've got a space saver spare wheel, which is quite unusual for a Seat. Can we put the floor lower? So that's why it's not carpeted, because you can just do that. That gives you significantly more space. You can pull the seats down with these release levers here, just like on the Golf. We've got a 12 volts socket there, and we've got obviously a retractable load cover. So not bad, but I can't help thinking you might find yourself at IKEA wishing you had the boxier shape of the Golf R Estate, because you could get things in that you may not be able to get in this. But you've got to admit, it's a great looking car. Right, let's go and drive the Seat Leon Cupra Estate. Okay guys, here we are in the Leon Cupra, and we're starting off on the motorway, because whilst I love to throw these cars around a good B road, the reality is for me, and I'm sure lots of other owners, is that they spend a lot of time on the motorway. We're doing about 70 miles an hour. We've got the adaptive cruise working. It's on a stalk, unlike on the Golf where it's on the steering wheel, but it's good to have it because it's quite a rare option. Only part of the Lux pack, even Cupra doesn't get it, and if you've had a Golf, it's something you get used to because it's been standard on Golfs for many years, and it makes motorway driving a lot easier. Kind of nice having it on the stalk because you don't really have to look at the buttons and you learn its ways, but I'm sure you can learn its ways on here as well if you've got a Golf. I'm sure I did when I had mine. Noise wise, at 70 miles an hour, I would say it's noisier than my Golf was. That was on 18s, or it was on 17-inch winters when I had it. We're on 19s, which are a bit of a recipe for more noise, I think, even compared to my Club Sport Mark 8 on 19, so it seems quite noisy. Plus we don't have carpet under the boot, and it's quite a big boot, so there's a potential for a lot more road noise to come in there. We don't have a fixed parcel shelf either. We've only got the cover that's not as probably good at deflecting noise as a rigid parcel shelf would be, so it's quite disappointing in that respect, to be honest. But driving position is alright. Weirdly, we don't have lumbar support though. I mean, it's lucky there's a fair bit of lumbar support in the seat anyway, but on the Golf, I'm pretty sure you have that, and it could be the difference between being comfortable and not being comfortable on quite a long journey. Other than that though, we're doing, if I press the display, I'll show you what revs we're doing. We're doing, blimey, under 2,000 RPM at 70, so about 1,800. That's a really laid back cruiser. That's the beauty of these 7-speed DSG gearboxes that came in from about 2017. Okay, that's enough motorway. Let's go and find a good B road. Before we get down to business, I just want to say we have wireless phone charging in this Cupra, which we don't get in the Mk7.5 Golf. That's quite a nice touch. We've got a very basic cup holder that's just a hole in the centre console, but it doesn't have those grabby prongs of 7.5, which I hate. Just like the Golf, we've got driving modes, and Cupra, just like the Golf's race mode, is a little bit too synthetic with its noise. That's that. If you put it into comfort, you'll see how much fakery that is. Cupra again, comfort. So I think we'll put it into sport just for a halfway house. You can mix and match the individual as ever. We're running Continental tyres, which is what a lot of the 7.5 Golfs run on as well. So we've got same engine, same gearbox, same four-wheel drive. The big difference is that we've got DCC suspension, which you can get on the Golf, but it's quite a rare option and it's very comfortable in comfort mode. In this sport mode, it's probably the best thing for a less than perfect British B road. So, does it feel any different to the Golf? Well, I would say there's not a lot in it that the average driver on a road is going to feel. Does it feel more rear driven? No, it's a nice neutral car, just like the Golf is. It's nice to have DCC, something you always get on Cupras, and it does give the car a lot more bandwidth. Especially with 19s, though you still feel a little bit of discomfort because you're not running an awful lot of tyre. These are just 35 section tyres. Right, let's do that again. And so sport mode. So much grip. I mean, it's 2.5 degrees. The roads have got a greasy sheen on them, and it's just not triggering its ESC. Maybe it will on this corner. No. What about this corner? Like the Golf R, it doesn't push into understeer very early, it doesn't engage the rear axle to help you around. It's just a relatively missionary position car to drive in that respect. And even the brakes are the same. 340mm at the front, 310 at the back. Probably deploy the hazards just as easily in the Golf as well. So yeah, when it comes to driving, assuming you can get the same spec Golf R, there really is not an awful lot in it. Exhaust noise, though, is quite different to my old 7.5. Now, that was a 2020, definitely an OPF car, and that car popped and banged for England. I couldn't believe it that this white estate car that looked like a Reps car was the most poppy and bangy Golf I'd ever driven. So this car seems very, very subdued in that respect. Okay guys, so which is the best compact hot estate car? Is it the Mk7.5 Golf R Estate, or could it be the Seat Leon Cupra Estate? Well, as you can probably tell, there is not an awful lot in it. Mechanically, it wouldn't surprise me if they shared exactly the same part number. They drive it in a very similar way too. The interiors, though, couldn't be more different. The Golf is typical Volkswagen. It's very high quality, but it's quite plain. The Cupra is slightly lower when it comes to material quality, but because it's the Cupra, it's got the carbon fibre effects everywhere, it's got Alcantara everywhere, it's got those lovely bucket seats. I think that trances the Golf, and you do spend a lot of time in the interior, so that is quite important. Another factor to consider, though, is this bit in the middle of the grille. This is the Seat badge, and even in copper, or particularly in copper, it's not as aspirational as the Volkswagen badge, and that, to some people, including me, does count for something. Is it good enough in every other way to make that insignificant? Well, I think that's down to your personal taste. But let's talk about price. This very late Mark III Leon is £30,000 and 5,000 miles. If you look on Auto Trader, we're coming towards the end of the crazy prices, but there are still the equivalent year and mileage Golf Rs for £5,000 more, and there is no way I would pay £5,000 more for the Golf. It's just not worth it over this car, which is at least as good in nearly every way. But I wouldn't buy either of them. If I had £35,000 for the Golf, I'd put that towards the Seat Leon Cupra R Estate. Now, it's very similar to this car, but the differences mean a lot. So it's got the same engine, same power output, same performance, but it could be upgraded from the factory to have not just 300 horsepower, 365 horsepower via an apt tuning package, which is completely warranty friendly. It's also got a revised chassis, which should make it handle a lot better than this car. and it's just a lot more special throughout. It's also got 4 exhaust tips which look a lot nicer. Okay, it's not as stealthy as this car, but then if you're spending £35,000, I guess you might as well show that you've spent that, which wouldn't be the case necessarily with the normal Cupra, because it is pretty much an FR to look at. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this Volkswizard video. If you've enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Please do comment, please do share, please do subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one very soon.